Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Dodgeball Podcast. In this episode, I'll be recapping the Twin Cities Dodgeball Throwdown that took place last weekend. Here to help me do so is Eric Stone, Tanja Kaiser, and Brett Furlong. Guys, thank you so much for joining me and lending your time to help recap and share what took place. Let's just go ahead and start with a simple introduction. Go ahead and give us your name, the team you played for, and let's start with Eric.
Hey, thanks for having me. Captain TC Bush, and for Throwdown, I captained Chaos.
Nice. Then Tanya, can go and start with you. We can go next.
Yep. Thanks for having me again. I was a team captain for the women's purple team. We did a women's draft. And then I was co-captain of our co-ed team, Juicy.
Nice. And Brett?
I play on Chicago Task Force regularly. And for this tournament, I was on Hidden Gems, Men's, and MVP for co-ed, and was also a USA Scout for this tournament as well.
Awesome. It's going to be exciting for me to go ahead and pick your brain on that aspect too. So, well, cool. Well, before we get into the divisions, I just was kind of talking to you earlier about it, Tanya, but I just wanted to try to get some more background information on the Twin Cities Throwdown, where it came from and who's behind it. But can we just go ahead and start with the Twin Cities Dodgeball? Is it an organization, a league, or company? What is it exactly?
Yeah, we're an organization. We're slowly working on transitioning to a nonprofit organization. But we have been around since about 2014, I think, is when we established we were formed. Yeah, it's been kind of fun. Had tournaments every now and again. Have our 2 annual ones that we do every year, the Throwdown, and then later in the fall we'll do the Clash, which is 1-on-1, 2-on-2, and a 3-on-3 tournament.
Nice. And then I was looking at the page that you gave me. It was the meetup. Is there really like 2,000 some odd dodgeballers that come to this event?
That's how many people have signed up. We don't require our members to come to every open gym that we host, but if we do an event, we usually post it on there so that we can get some attention, get people who are interested in playing dodgeball in the cities out into our open gyms to bring them into leagues, hopefully. So,
gotcha. And then also, foam is the primary ball, correct, for this?
Correct. We love our 7-inch foam up here.
Gotcha. And did you guys, any of you guys get your background or get into dodgeball through NCDA?
I didn't know.
Nope. I started with 7-inch foam here in the cities. Gotcha.
Same with you, Brett?
I started with 8-inch foam in suburbs of Chicago.
Was that NADA by chance?
Yeah, those are the tournaments we went to, but we played in a league called Western Springs Dodgeball.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. Yeah, it's always good for me to basically just find out more about you guys, and probably said this in previous episodes, but I definitely am guilty of just kind of lumping you all in the same like NCDA, We Pinch, 8.5 type of realm. So I'm happy to kind of get to know you guys more and find out more about what took place. So I guess now that we have some context behind the event, why don't we just go ahead and break down the division. And looks like we have a women's draft first. So I guess Tanya's probably going to take lead on most of these questions, but do you want to kind of give us some insight on the overall division, Tanya?
Yeah, it was our first year having a women's division. We've always struggled in getting women in to dodgeball up here in the north. So it was pretty awesome. We had 6 teams with 4 players on each. We picked our captains kind of based on strength so that we can divide the skill up a little bit, and then did a draft earlier in the week. And yeah, it was definitely very fun to play. It's a lot of these ladies up here first time playing in a women's division, which was definitely fun to see. And you could definitely see like the sparkle in their eye when they were on the court with just other women. It's a different game compared to co-ed for sure.
Gotcha. Do you guys have I don't want to try to like insinuate anything, but do you guys have like an issue recruiting women, or is it just like we just want a division for them this time around?
It's kind of been a little bit of both. me, Ashley, Marjan, and Lori have kind of been the competitive females that are traveling for dodgeball and things. It's hard to convince females to travel all over the world to play dodgeball. So, yeah, at the local level, we have some people that are talented, but not travel-worthy competitive, I would say.
At least yet, anyway, maybe.
Exactly.
Gotcha. The reason why I asked that, and I guess I kind of put the question that way, was because of the South. Like, it was a big deal for Elite Round 1 to have a women's division, and they kind of had to, I think they had to cap it to 4 players in hopes of, growing the division and getting more people to come out for other rounds and stuff. So that's kind of where I was going with that. But looking at the bracket, it looks like Orange was pretty dominant the entire time. That's Ashley Cook, right?
It is, yes.
I'm not surprised. What about the other players, Lauren, Jamie, and Michelle? Are they? Can you kind of speak to them a little bit, or?
Lauren Dwyer is from Canada. She was one that tried out or was selected to go for Team Canada to their nationals the weekend before. Definitely good catcher for sure. And the other 2 ladies were definitely key in their dominant performance for sure.
Gotcha. Yeah, I was watching the recap video, and I mean, I wasn't really sure like what divisions were what, but it definitely looked like the female players were pretty solid. Let's see. I see Green, recognize Paige and Elena, so it's good to see that. Well, actually, before I get too ahead of myself, let's see. They played the first round, lost to Orange. Oh wow! I just assumed they would do really well. I caught myself there. I'm glad I double checked. Were there any other teams, or at least with that division, aside from Orange, that showed up or looked really good from your perspective?
For sure. Orange obviously was very good. White had a very, very good team. They were all very balanced. The really nice thing about them is they all knew each other, so they knew how to work with each other, which definitely gave them an advantage. Ashley's team, the Orange team, actually went in as 4th seed, which was shocking in itself, but they definitely showed up to play in the tournament. Nice.
And then let's see. So some of these names I do recognize. Black, you had Kat Takeda, and is that Nicole Chasen for Red?
It was, yes.
Nice. Dang, she's been busy. So she hit you guys, and then I think she was at the LA Classic for this past weekend. So that's awesome. Glad to see that she's back in the mix. I guess I don't want to really leave it there, but were there any like plays or anything specific that you can take away from that division that you recall?
There were several good catches, especially for some of the ladies here that haven't played in an all women's tournament before. So that was very exciting. Paige is always a dominant force on the court. Her outgoing personality is always fun to watch. So yeah, I mean, everyone played amazing. It was super fun to watch the ladies kind of just, I don't know, show their skill set.
Nice.
So,
and not to leave you guys out of it, but Eric and Brett, did you guys notice anything from your perspective? I think I see some notes from Eric, but how about you, Brett?
I didn't get too much of a chance to kind of watch the women play with playing myself, and then kind of scouting the guys when I did have my downtime. But it did look like some good competition over there amongst the women. So
gotcha.
I assumed it went well.
For sure. And how about you, Eric? Is this the right context? I think you happen to know about Katie Cordiat.
Yeah. I wish I could have watched the women's division more. Like Brett said, we were playing men's kind of at the same time.
Oh, I see.
But I think if we just had more time, maybe a little bit more space, we could we could break it up so that we could have watched the women's division more. But I did get to see a little bit of it, and I think on paper, like Tanja was saying, Marjan's team was the most well-rounded and balanced team with Marjan, Lori, Keo, and Taylor. I think people outside the cities probably don't know Keo and Taylor. They know Marjan, of course, from traveling, and then Lori plays on Blitz for co-ed on the national level. So they probably recognize those two names. But Keo and Taylor are both really good players here locally. I think Taylor definitely has a big future in dodgeball. She kind of just recently started coming out. We discovered her over at Sky Zone, and she plays with Josh Kerbel, who's another local player who is up and coming here. But she's got a really good arm. She catches. Really talented player. I could see her doing really well nationally if she ever gets around to traveling.
Gotcha.
I think one of her catches is on the highlight reel that Mick put out too.
Do you know which one it was by chance?
Let's see. I know she's at the back wall. There's like 3 balls coming at her. I think she's in a gray, kind of a bay. There's Katie's catch. That's Katie.
Might get the distracted.
Is this showing up for everyone?
Yeah.
It is actually. Yep. There's Elena's crazy. I don't know. Like it was a catch and then an out and then a throw in between the legs at the same time.
Yeah, she's good. I feel like that's the first time I've seen her play. Maybe I've seen her play before, but I was really impressed by Elena's play for sure.
Yeah, she's obviously she's from Arizona, and I've got to see her play. I play with her as well, and she's already doing like one-handed catches, and she's a monster in both foam, rubber, and no sting. So it's exciting to see that she's going out there and repping pretty well.
Yeah, no, she did great. She definitely stuck out in the women's division for sure.
We'll have to maybe go back and see if I can find that catch for later. Don't want to get too distracted with the visuals.
Oh, sure. Yeah, and I was just gonna mention Katie too. I know she's put a lot of work into her game. She hasn't traveled much, but as far as a local player, she comes out to open gym pretty regularly, and just a huge improvement. I think it just shows. I think for a lot of girls and even guys too, you come out and you don't throw very hard, and everyone else is playing at this high level, and she just stuck with it and really worked on her throw, and she's been throwing really well, catching really well. Definitely made a really big improvement.
Awesome. Very cool. Well, let's go ahead and get into the men's division. Looks like we've got some lot to work with here. So I guess let's see, how can we transition to this one? We'll go ahead and go with Brett. How did the first division go for you overall? Looks like you got some notes that you kind of speak towards.
Well, for men's division, I was put on a free agent team. I was the only one from task force that decided to make the trip. So Tanja did me a favor of finding some other guys to play with. I don't believe any of us met each other, so it was kind of a fun experience to get to know some other guys and everyone collaborate their game together. I think we took the 11th seed out of 14, so at least we weren't last. But we did have some fun playing together, and there are definitely some good teams out there. Probably some people, I and probably we underestimated. But definitely some good battles. Wrecking Balls, we beat them in round robin, and then they came back and I think eventually eliminated us in the playoffs. And just some really good play overall amongst all teams I saw.
Is this Wrecking Balls from the South?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, crazy. Cool. I didn't know that they were traveling outside the regions. Was that the team that Eric Jones was on by chance?
No.
Eric Jones, I believe, was on Trash Pandas.
It sounds like something he would do. Trash Panda. I don't know. I know that he was in the South Plain. I think it was like Dodge Wars. So I just kind of did an assumption there, but Trash Pandas makes more sense. Cool. And how about you, Eric? What'd you see from your perspective?
For men's division, we did really well. We rolled through it. Not completely though. I would say we had 2 pretty good matches in round robin. Blitz gave us a pretty good run. I think the final score ended up being 3-1, but we went into no blocking and they had a pretty good chance of tying us. This is during round robin. And then No Mercy, which is a local trampoline team. Trent and Tristan Raymond and then Josh Kerbel, Taylor's boyfriend. They gave us a pretty good run in round robin too. It was 2-1 going into no block, and they had a good shot at tying it 2-2, but we ended up pulling it out.
Nice. You said no blocking. So was that like Sin City where at the end of was like 10 minutes you had to call no blocking to speed up time? Is that what happened, or how does that factor in?
Yep. I think we were doing 8-minute matches. I could be wrong. I think it was 8 minutes. Just continuous games for 8 minutes, and then once 8 minutes was up, it would just go into no blocking. Balls would reset, and then whatever game was in progress would just finish with no blocking.
It's
mainly
hilarious.
Just to keep it on time, really.
Yeah, for sure. It's hilarious when no blocking's implemented. Like we have it here with the NDO League, our foam here on in Phoenix, and no matter how many times people say no blocking, like it's just such an impossible instinct to try to forget about. Do any of you guys have that issue when this is
sure.
implemented?
Oh yeah, and then you all yell and laugh when they do block, and oh yeah, I saw that a few times for sure. Luckily, I wasn't on the end of blocking and no blocking. At least I don't think I was. I very well could have been, but yeah, I feel like that's happened. We've all been in that spot.
That's hilarious. What other rule variations? And I guess this is probably something I could have asked earlier, but as far as this tournament goes, and any one of you guys can take this, but does it compare to elite-based rules, or how does what's the format overall for this tournament?
It's mostly WDBF rules, a little bit modified, obviously, for time restraints. So we did 8-minute games, and then it always ended in no blocking. Round robin, it didn't matter if there was ties. Everyone got awarded points. And then we obviously seeded, and we continued throughout the tournament the same way. If the tournament game ended in a tie, it goes into a 4-minute game, regular play. Whoever wins. And
that's a specific WDBF rule too.
Yeah,
that's how it is in the WDBF. If it's tied, it goes into a 4-minute game.
Can you let me slow down? Is there like a first out, first in? What do you call it? Order when you get out, or can you get in whenever you want to with this tournament?
First out, first in.
Gotcha. That's one of the, maybe just for recreational purposes, but that's one of the main variations that I recall from NDO, at least from the Tuesday night league here, is you can go in whenever you want to. So it's kind of like on the team to decide who comes in on a catch, which I wondered if that was going to transition into some of these more competitive-based tournaments. But let's go ahead and talk about, I just want to cover this note from Brett. In terms of like what gave your teams the biggest challenges, I think you already kind of spoke to wrecking balls and blitz, but was there anything specific about them, or they just showed up with their A game that day?
I think wrecking balls hit a few surprising players to me, being from the north. Guys like Justin Ashby, forgetting his name, Hebert. I can't remember his first name. I apologize. Jake Hebert. Yep. Yeah, those two guys I think really kind of surprised me. I don't believe I ever have played against them or really seen them play on the court. So they kind of gave me a run for my money personally. And then Blitz, I think we see them every elite tournament. I mean, I think almost every tournament in the Midwest, Blitz is there, and they're just a solid group of young dodgeball players that just get the game fundamentally right. They understand how to play. They may not have all the talent in the world, but they just know how to play dodgeball, and they always bring it. So they're usually a challenge whenever I see them out there. So
nice. Yeah, that's the thing is like you can have 6 incredibly talented individuals, but if they can't play together, it doesn't really do much. But then, you know, if they can sync, then that kind of changes the whole dynamic. And it's kind of like a gimme, but I wondered, you know, if you had showed up with Task Force, it probably would have been a different showing. Would you agree?
Most definitely. I mean, Task Force has been to the past 2 throwdowns. I believe we won it 2 years ago. And then this year we just couldn't make it happen. It's no biggie. But yeah, I believe if Task Force brought our team, I mean, we would have been more competitive. So
for sure. And then Eric, we'll go ahead and go back to you with this question, and that is, were there any like highlight plays or matches that you can recall? You put in here Wrecking Balls versus Trashed Pandas semifinal.
Yeah, that was a really good match, and I think they went into overtime, and that was to go to the final. That was the semifinal, and Wrecking Balls, I think they really came out to play for this tournament. They did really well. We didn't get to play them at all in men's. I think we did play them in co-ed, but I can definitely second what Brett was saying about Justin and Jake. Those were 2 really good players. I recall playing Justin before, and he's just a little guy who is really tough to hit and moves around on the court really well, has a decent throw. I've always been really impressed by his play. And yeah, they made a really good run. They ended up with 3rd in men's, and were really close to making the final. Gotcha. And I just remember my guys on Chaos were watching that match, and we were kind of like second guessing which one we'd rather play.
I wonder how that feels like which one do we have a better chance of beating? And
Right. Yeah, we're sitting there watching the semifinal, you know, and it's like going into it, it's like, okay, you know, Trash Pandas, Cody's team is probably just our biggest rival on paper. But then just seeing the way Wrecking Balls were coming together, the way they were playing, they almost had it. They had a really good match against Trash Pandas and almost got themselves into the final.
Nice. What did you guys do against Trash Pandas that helped solidify your win? I mean, it looks like you guys dominated the entire time. So did you change anything up, or were you just kind of the better team that day, or?
You know, we just gave balls to Derek Johnson and Cody Stidham in the middle and just had them throw.
They did the rest.
I mean, that was our basic strategy. It was me and Alexander He-Man, who some of you guys probably know from TC Booch, our UDC team, who plays the wing with me. It was him and I on the wings, and then we would just protect and hold, and then it was just Stidham and Johnson just lighting people up in the middle.
Nice.
And that really was just our base strategy. I mean, I remember, you know, planning for the tournament, and, you know, there really wasn't a lot of complexity to our strategy at all. I think anyone who played us could see, you know, what we were doing, and it was working. And so we just kept doing it. But Derek Johnson and Cody Stidham both have just really powerful 7-inch foam throws. Derek Johnson especially has really found his niche with his 7-inch foam throw, and it's just some of the hardest 7-inch foam throws I've seen.
Nice. Is Derek Johnson, does he go by Captain America, or is that on the back of one of his shirts?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Captain America. One of his Bush tanks has Captain America on the back.
Nice.
Yeah, he's the one that made that clutch catch against Rise out at Nationals in Boston.
I think he's doing something clutch looking in one of his pictures, and it says Captain America, and that's how I know that much at least. But I've heard about him a lot, so that's cool.
I think that's the pick from when he caught Tim when we upset Rise out at Nationals for Elite. Nice.
Poor Tim. He has to live those clutch catches forever. I'm sure there's been a couple out there. Cool. Well, let's go ahead and go to Brett. I just wanted to touch on your note here. You just said you saw some leg catches and maybe some deflection catches.
Yeah, I believe we had a few leg catches against us, and then I think overall, I witnessed a bunch of deflection catches throughout the day. I think 7-inch foam kind of leads to those pop-ups, and people are capitalizing them, I think, throughout the weekend or throughout the day. So
there's watching this video. I think it's that taller red shirted gentleman. He like a ball just like popped up right into his arm, like the crook of his elbow. He's like, "Oh, okay, I'll take it." Did you see a lot of that happening, or?
Yeah, I mean,
like deliberate?
Not to the degree of luckiness as that one. I think that's the ball that hit Derek, and then Alex He-Man just lands right like in his hand. He's not even looking at it.
Yeah.
I mean, that was. That's a good example of kind of some of the play that was going on throughout the day.
And how about that leg catch? Did it just get like stuck in between somebody's legs, or was that like deliberate?
Yeah, just kind of guys going down to the ground and balls just kind of sticking between their thighs or getting caught up like in the back of their knee, stuff like that.
God, that's so frustrating. I mean, if it happens to you, it's amazing. But when you think you hit somebody out like Derek, and then now fate's just going to dictate otherwise and place that ball ever so gently in that player's hands, it's so frustrating. But it's hilarious at the same time. So let's go ahead and go into the third division, the co-ed. Unless, let me backtrack real quick. Tanja, I'm assuming you didn't really get a chance to take part in the men's division because you're playing women's.
Correct. Women's and running the show a little bit kind of took up a majority of my time. I'm sure there was amazing things going on. So. Yeah,
I'm sure. That's a lot on your plate, though. I mean, it's enough to just play the event, but helping run it's going to take a lot out of you. So
yeah, my shout out list is pretty big. So
awesome. Sweet. That's my favorite part, but cool. Well, we'll go ahead and go to the co-ed division. And I guess we'll just start with Eric. How did the co-ed division go for you overall?
It went really well. We were 12-2 in round robin, picked up the first seed again. And let's see, played Blitz, played Pandas. We got to play Wrecking Balls for our last match of round robin. And then we started out with Juicy, which was Tanja and I think some of the West Coast guys for our very first match. But yeah, we kept our momentum going. We had the same roster basically, plus Marjan for the co-ed requirement, and yeah, really kept the momentum going from men's, and yeah, we did really well.
You said West Coast guys, so it's like Brody. I think I saw Casey Moses. Anybody else from the West Coast? Eric Jones. Aside from those three,
Brendan, Mick, Tad. Micah,
Andy.
Yeah, Andy was out too. Yeah.
Nice. Now, is that something that's happening more and more, or has there always been a pretty decent West Coast showing, or I guess multi-region now? Are you guys noticing that's trending, or was there a lot of other regions that come to this event prior to this year?
Canada's come down a couple years. Chicago's come over some Michigan. Every now and again, we'll get a couple players from the different regions, but never really like full teams.
Gotcha. Just some, I don't want to say like the more competitive guys out there, but the ones that are more likely to travel. Like, I was actually surprised Andrew Ketchum wasn't out there, so I wonder if he was taking the weekend off or something, because he seems to be going to every single tournament. But how did the co-ed division go for you, Tanja, overall?
It went pretty well. I was very excited to play with some of the West Coast guys for the first time. We seeded pretty good. Our first game against Wrecking Balls, and we kind of went downhill after losing to them. But I think we ended up facing Trash Pandas pretty early on, thanks to them getting knocked down pretty early. I was kind of shocked that the Pandas were ranked 12th. So, yeah, I mean, it was a fun division.
Gotcha.
Who sent them down to losers bracket the first time?
Was it Chaos? I'm looking at the right bracket, right? 17?
Yeah, it was you guys. Chaos.
was that
real?
Yeah.
Was that a humble brag?
In elimination?
You sent them down, yep. And then
we played them again in the final?
Correct.
Oh, okay.
So it's either a humble brag or just a huge diss. You know what I mean?
Yeah, don't read it. This is just me after a long day, I guess. Everything's just a blur.
That's fair. Yeah, it looks like he sent them down and they clawed their way back up just to get sent home. So,
okay, we did.
That's funny. And then Brad, just per your note, you're like, again, another sub team or?
Yeah, another free agent team. MVP. We took the 16th seed out of 17 teams. So,
These are not last.
we did win our playing game, and we got to face Eric on Chaos, which I'm sure was a lot closer in my head than in his. So they kindly sent us down to losers bracket, where I think we won another match. So we didn't win any matches during round robin, but we brought our game in the playoffs. I'm confident in that. So I'm happy with that.
You had that sweet catch on Derek Johnson though, so that made it all worth it. I remember that.
Yeah, I drove home with a smile on my face.
Yeah,
nice
for sure.
But but overall, I think there's some really good teams out there. Ratchet, playing with the three females, Kat, Nicole, and Paige with Andy and Brody. That was a really fun team to watch. I mean, I think they played really casually, but really well. So
nice.
Yeah, they took third.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I wouldn't. I guess I would expect them to place pretty high. That sounds like a pretty awesome lineup. So that's awesome. And then looks like you beat P-Force.
Panda Force.
Okay, I was like, please don't be the other P word I'm thinking.
No.
My mind went to a dark place real fast. You said Panda Force?
Yeah, so
Eau
Claire, Wisconsin, they have like a dodgeball club over there. And what they did for this tournament was they took all the players that wanted to play and drafted onto 3 teams. And gave me team names that were like 7 words long. So I abbreviated as I went.
Is there like a full Panda Force name that we're missing, or? No,
we had the Panda Force. There was the Bodybuilders of Walmart.
Okay, or Walmart. Got it.
Yeah. So some interesting choice of names, but we went with it.
What was N Thunder?
Northern Thunder.
Northern Thunder. Okay. Yeah, there's one team name I'm deliberately looking over, in case you guys are wondering, but I don't see any other. Showers, 5 Jerks. It's a cool team name. So obviously with this one, it's not like elite where you have to have a serious team name. You can kind of have a little bit of fun, even though the competition's pretty serious. Would that be a pretty fair assumption? For
sure. It's a fun tournament. every year it's gotten bigger and bigger. And, this started out as just us wanting to play dodgeball, and we created a tournament, and, some of that still is there, the fun of playing dodgeball.
Nice. Very cool. So let's, and we'll start with Eric. If you can remember, were there any teams that gave you a challenge for the co-ed division?
Yeah, we had some good matches. There was a team, and I don't know who let them name themselves this, but they were called the Dodge Fathers, which was really unfortunate, but it's all good. But they were from Winnipeg. I hope I have the name right. I think that was the Winnipeg team. And I'm spacing on any of their names right now, but we had a really tight match with them. I think that was that was in elimination. I think our second match in elimination, and they played us really well. I think we just won by just one game. But I remember specifically that was a really good match in co-ed for us. It was close. I think anytime you're going up against players who you don't really know, there's a little bit of just a learning curve of kind of getting to know them. You don't really know who their arm is, or who their really good catcher is, or you don't really have a feel for them. And so I really felt like that was the case going against those guys, and they're really good dodgeball players too. Winnipeg, which is just about 8 hours north of us here in Minneapolis, just across the border into Canada. They play a lot of 7-inch foam up there, so they're comfortable with this ball type and this style of play. And I think that really showed. And I don't think they played men's either. At least I don't remember seeing a lot of those players playing men's. I could be wrong. But they were just really fresh, and you could definitely tell they had a lot of experience, and with that ball type, they gave us a good match.
Nice. And going back to that comment you said about Dodge Fathers, and you're not sure who let them do that, was that like a Kenny Dodgefather Cox reference, or was that a team that was retired from your region?
No, I feel like every tournament, rec tournament, or just almost any tournament I've ever been to, which this was actually my 139th tournament that I've played in.
Holy crap.
I feel like, I added them up just the other day, 139 tournaments. I feel like there's always a Dodge Fathers, like even in like leagues, and I don't know. It's just a really common name that I feel like just needs to be retired.
Somebody else said that.
And I'm probably offending a bunch of people who think like their dodgeball team named the Dodge Fathers is like the coolest thing ever.
Are you one of those people, Brett, or I saw you?
Yeah, I think I've been to countless tournaments where there's always the Dodge Fathers, and it's kind of, I think it's almost a joke, like in the Midwest.
I see. I wonder, might have been Glenn that was telling me about that. Maybe Glenn or Kat. I'm almost positive. I'll have to go back and listen to that episode. But he had mentioned like there's always a Dodge Fathers team, and
always.
Yeah, and it's kind of like there's always a balls deep team, and it's just for that one at least. It's like, come on, man. But Dodge Fathers doesn't seem that bad, at least from my perspective. But I guess I don't know. Maybe it would be kind of weird if people stopped doing that. Don't you think? Like it would. Just like
I'd welcome it.
Oh, it's just that done with you guys are just that done with it.
They're never good, so.
Oh, I see. Gotcha. Well, how about you, Tanya? Let's go ahead and move on to your team and what teams gave you like the biggest challenges.
Well, Wrecking Balls definitely gave us trouble right out the gate. I don't think, we should have been more prepared for them going into it, especially since they had just rounded up, third in the men's division, but they played us really well. They controlled the balls, they controlled the clock, and we were doing everything to stay afloat. Other than that, the Minions, they beat us in round robin. but we beat them in the tournament. They were definitely fun to play against. Blitz for sure, always a good competition, and then Pandas they walked over us. So all in all, it was fun to play with different players, especially when you haven't played with people before. Learning where everyone's position is on the court. So, yeah.
Nice. Did you have to make any changes with like your play style?
For sure. Playing with Boosh is very different than playing on a different team. I enjoy playing with Boosh as it's like a structured team. We all know our roles on our team, and then when you're on a team who, has a couple players that like to throw and are a little bit more wild, it's a little bit harder to adjust to.
Right.
But it was fun to give the guys the ball to throw and, pass the ball off. So.
Gotcha. And this can go to anybody. I just realized this. Wrecking Ball's Anthony Miller was on that team, was he?
Yes, he was.
Do you think he had a factor with them? Because he normally plays for Outlaws, so I wonder if that was just like a one-time deal, or can you guys kind of speak to his play and what that brought to the table?
Yeah, I mean, I think Anthony is a very well-rounded and versatile player in his own right. So I think just him alone on that team added a lot of value, and then kind of looked like he was providing some leadership out there to those guys and getting them kind of lined up correctly, coordinating their throws. So I mean, that's just added bonus on top of his own skill out there. So that definitely added to their threat level out there.
Gotcha. Yeah, just a quick side question I thought of for a second. So I remember I just saw him in the highlights. Like, oh, I know that guy. And Brett, how about you? Did you was there any specific teams that gave you a challenge, or was it just enough to kind of overcome being on a freelance team?
I think it's fair to say every team was a challenge for us. I mean, we didn't get shut out in any of our matches, so that was good. But we just could never get to the top of the hill first. We were just, I think, overpowered and overskilled. Again, that was a team we didn't know a lot, but teams like Blitz, again, I spoke to them earlier, just solid. I think they just kind of like picked us apart, kind of with no problem. But then some of the teams, honestly, I mean, we were just beat with skill and just kind of being overpowered at certain times. So,
gotcha. Yeah, I mean, it could probably be. It's a tall order to play against those teams already, and if you're not with a team you're used to playing with, or you're trying to figure out the whole synergy aspect, I'm sure that could be a little bit difficult. That's a cool expression that I've never heard of. We couldn't get to the top of the hill first. I like that. I might steal that from you. Cool. So let's just real quick dive into any like highlight plays or matches that you guys may have seen, and we'll go ahead and start from the top. So Eric, anything from the co-ed division that you wanted to mention that we might not have covered already? It can be like plays or match wise.
Co-ed.
Assuming you weren't too busy winning and forgetting people and matches.
Yeah, it's tough. I just get so focused at tournaments, and then it's all a blur afterwards, honestly, unless I watch a lot of film of it. Like, I mean, even I didn't even remember that we sent Trash Pandas down to the losing bracket. I think, I don't know. I have a lot of respect for athletes who are able to just give post-game interviews and are just able to detail play by play what happened. I don't know how they do that. It's just all a blur to me until I watch the film or see it again, I guess.
Gotcha. Are you one of those guys that, like, after doing something really awesome, you just say you blacked out, don't really recall what happened? There's just bodies around you everywhere.
Yeah, right. Like some just kind of just a war zone, man. I'm just so locked in to what I'm doing. And then I'm just watching film afterwards. It's almost like seeing it for the first time sometimes when I watch a match. but I think I mean, I know I'm not the only one who experiences that. I think goes back to the importance of watching film and watching yourself play. I think you just see that other perspective, and you learn so much about the game, about your own game, and then just about the game in general, from watching the film afterwards.
Gotcha. I mean, and you said you'd played in 129 tournaments, 139?
139. Yeah, I started playing in 2009 in a local league here, and I still have the schedule and the results and the playoff bracket from that season. Wow. I'm kind of, I don't know, a collector, I'll call myself maybe. I don't know, sentimental. I keep track of like all the schedules and standings and results from all the tournaments that I've played in and all the leagues that I've played in.
That's awesome.
I've just kept track of everything from when I first started. So
you kind of like Serge Ferrari. He kind of does the same thing. I thought I was good with history.
Oh, Serge does that too, huh?
Yeah, he.
Okay, I know Glenn does, and I don't know if he does anymore. But he used to have it on his Facebook page in a note, and so you could go to his Facebook page and look at his notes, and it was like up to date, his the tournaments that he'd been in.
That's awesome.
And I think Jen Ritchie does that too. I think she keeps track of everything that she plays in.
That's awesome. I used to do that until like 2009, and I was just like, never mind. It's out there somewhere. I can figure it out if I need to collect it all. But yeah. How about you, Tanya? Any highlight plays or takeaways from the co-ed division overall?
Honestly, I'm sure there was. Watching the highlight video that was done, there was definitely some great plays. I was kind of busy running around. I'm shocked that people weren't upset that I was yelling so much. So I think Brett would have better ideas of great plays.
Gotcha. And I guess we'll go with that. How about you, Brett?
Plays specifically, and some of that's hard to recall, but just teams like Ratchet, just watching their games were fun. They kind of a real nice loose rhythm to how they were playing. And they just had their crazy plays. I mean, with that roster they have, I think they're kind of built to cover all the intangibles out there. And then Trash Pandas, I think that's one of my favorite teams to go see and play against. With like Cody out there and Ashley and Bizzle, and Eric Jones joined them this year. That's just another solid, well-rounded team that just takes it. And then, of course, Chaos. I think usually when you're watching that team, you're just kind of in awe of the power that they're just demonstrating out on the court. It's just hard throw after hard throw, and you're just praying for the people on the other end of those throws. So the top three teams were probably the most fun to watch and probably the most competitive coming out of co-ed.
Gotcha. And that being Chaos, Trash Pandas, and Ratchet were the top three?
Correct. Yeah.
Awesome. Let me see. And the cool thing is, you said it was Mick Woods? I thought it was Mike Woods, but does he have a different pronunciation or?
No, he goes by Mick.
Mick, okay. Well, his video, that definitely does a lot of justice in terms of the intensity, I think. It just all around solid, just crazy plays happening all around, and kind of like what you said, Brett, with some of these balls that are flying around are just look like they're going insanely fast. But let's go ahead and kind of transition into something I think mostly Brett can cover, and that's your thoughts as a scout. I want to ask all the questions, but let me just try to think of one real quick. Let's just start with standout players that you noticed. And can you talk to this as a scout? Is that like?
There's some stuff I can't discuss, but I can talk.
Cool.
There were several standout players. One of the things and I want to thank Tanya for this, was all the players who wanted to be considered for Team USA were given a pink wristband. So going around and watching games, I didn't have to specifically look for certain players and try and be like, oh, I think they're on my list, and like go down and check my list. I could just see as they got a wristband on. I know they want to be considered. So it was, that was a big, huge welcome. And I think I would like to see kind of going forward if this selection process continues. But yeah, that was a huge help. But kind of with talking about the players, it was a good mix, I think, of some of the old and more recent Team USA players, like with Eric and Cody and Cody Foley and Cody Stidham. Eric Jones was there. Some of those guys who had played on Team USA before, and then a bunch of new faces kind of wanting to try out and get their names on there. You got some of the other players on Chaos, Super Best Friends. I think 4 of their players were trying out for Team USA. Saucy, I think almost all their players were trying out, and Wrecking Balls. They had some players. So there were a lot of good standouts. I don't think anyone really disappointed or misrepresented themselves like in a negative fashion, kind of to how they normally play. And I think that's kind of what the scouts are generally looking for is, can you play on a consistent basis at a above average to excellent style and productivity out there. And I think it should be noted that we are judging your game based off of 7-inch foam. So some of the players I did notice, they play 7-inch foam the way they play 8.5 rubber, which that may work in some scenarios, but I think some players need to adapt their game to fit what this team is going to be asked to do, which is compete in a 7-inch foam tournament. So I think some players do kind of alter their game to play 7-inch foam, which is I think should be kind of more talked about rather than just go out there and play. And but it was a very good competitive atmosphere. I did talk to a few people kind of about Team USA and kind of what they should be expecting soon. Yeah, I know me and Anthony and I and Nicole, we were all taking notes and making sure we had everyone covered. We were talking about players there, making sure we're both notating what we're seeing. So, I think it was a great tournament for displaying people's talents for Team USA.
Nice. It's funny because, like, every time I was going to ask a question, I was going to start writing it down, but you just transitioned into it, like, perfectly. So I only managed to get, like, 2 or 3 out while you're speaking. And I want to ask, one of those things you probably can't do is you can't name specific people in this regard. Would that be taboo or?
Not at this time, I can't.
Gotcha. Yeah, I didn't want somebody to listen to it and like, oh, sweet, I'm on Team USA now. So I definitely understand. And one thing I did want to ask, and I think it's a great idea with the pink wristband. Are any of you guys familiar with the National Dodgeball League at all and their professional tryout, how that used to be?
Yes.
So like
I've heard stories.
Yeah, not having the runner's sign on the small of your back with the clothespins or the safety pins.
Yes.
But
I actually brought Boosh out there the first year after everyone had left. And we really didn't know much about it or anything. We were already out there for the UDC. And so just went out to the NDL because it was there. And there was like 6 or 7 teams per division. And that was the first year after everyone took off.
Yeah, it's not the time to join that organization, right. I guess. So the wristband though, so that was Tanya's idea?
I believe so.
Yeah, I kind of the weekend before we went up and watched the Canadian national tryouts up there, and looking down, some of the players had a pink wristband on, and I was like, whoa, that's it really stands out. The wristbands were for the after party at that time. But it got me thinking, what a better way to have the players stand out on the court than to, let's hunt down, okay, who is this player? Are they trying out? Are they not trying out? So it stood out. It worked well, I thought.
Nice. Do you think, and this can go for anybody, do you think having a pink wristband drew more attention from the opposite team? Like, oh, I see Eric's trying out for Team USA. I'm going to light him up now. And I'm not saying maliciously prevent him from doing that, but do you think that's kind of like putting a big target on your back, so to speak?
I don't think so. I think I didn't even notice it really when I was playing. I never noticed it. Maybe some others did, but I know when I was ever playing, I couldn't notice if someone had a wristband on or not.
Just another competition, another opponent to defeat for you.
Yeah.
Gotcha. How about you, Brett? Did you? Kind of a weird question to ask, I guess, but
I didn't see any negative effects of people like getting targeted because they had one, or even players being a little more aggressive because they had one. I think everyone kind of played kind of balanced in that regards. So I think kind of when you're in the heat of the moment playing, that's the last thing you're probably considering is I'm going to try and take this guy out to ruin his chances at making Team USA. I don't see that as maybe down the line when I don't know, someone gets snubbed or you got a beef with somebody, but on one game will not decide anything. So
nice. Yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of walking that question back now. I'm like, that might have been a silly thing to ask because the wristband doesn't really change the player. They're still really good, most likely, and you still have to defeat them anyway. But that was just a question that popped in when you were talking about it. And Tanja, I noticed you're kind of laughing. Did you have some input on that, or?
No, I was on the court and I couldn't tell you one person who was wearing a pink wristband. Like, if they're on the court, I'm more worried if they're gonna throw a ball at me or they're gonna counter. Like, what do I need to do in this moment? Not, hey, I wonder what he's wearing.
Gotcha.
So.
For sure. And then this is another question for you, Brett. Is there anything that, aside from playing really well, players can do to get noticed? And this is kind of more of a broad question for future events that have scouts. Like, are you looking for, like you said, you may be super great at 8.5, but you're looking at people and their ability to play in foam. So any other, like, I don't want to say like nuances that people might need to keep in mind for those that want to be on Team USA?
I think one of the big things, and we've talked about it amongst the scouts, is just a great attitude. I think that sounds kind of cliche, but I mean, this is going to be a team that's representing USA and kind of representing kind of all of us, that we want kind of stand up, good character guys out there. This is for the men's team and good character women for the women's team. So, I mean, positive attitude, willing to work with teammates. And I think something that, I mean, I've thought about, and I think some of the other guys have, is can you fill many roles to make the team? We can't have 6 wing players on the court. So if you're usually a wing player, can you play another position? Can you play the middle? Can you play the rush? I mean, those are good things to also demonstrate. I mean, if you're only out there just wanting to throw the ball, that's great. But kind of after watching videos from WDF past, throwing will not win you a gold medal. You got to be able to do other things. So I think demonstrating other attributes other than having a ball and sitting in the corner is a great way to get noticed. I mean, can you dodge? Can you catch? Can you do other stuff? So
that's awesome. Yeah, I was going to ask about that because in talking to Dylan and I think Eric and Alan, one of the challenges that you have to be on Team USA is can you sync with these players that you've never played with before potentially, and can you do it fast? Can you guys find your rhythm quickly? So being able to display that attribute, like, yeah, I'm a good team player. I can fit any role. I can mesh well. It's probably super important. So I'm glad you kind of brought that up. And Tanya, you said that the scout was Nicole for the women's team.
Marjan and Nicole were both there. Yeah.
Gotcha. Very cool. Yeah, I'll probably have to pick their brains at some point. Well, let's go ahead and transition into the shout out section. And if you have something great, if not, no worries. But we'll just go ahead and start with Eric. Was there anybody in particular that you wanted to shout out? Could have been like a player, a team, helper, anything like that from your end?
Yeah, I got to give a shout out to my girlfriend, Dua, who played in her second dodgeball tournament ever in the ladies division. So that was pretty cool to see her out there playing. Nice. She's just started coming out to open gyms and is kind of getting into dodgeball. So that's really cool to see. I think I was probably more excited than she was that she was going to be playing.
And she was on the Team Black with Kat and Karen.
Yeah, she got to play with Kat. Yeah,
nice.
So yeah, this was her second tournament. She actually kind of got just drug out to both of these tournaments. It was about a month ago or so. She got drug out to a tournament because I think I had a girl drop on one of my teams. And then Tanya, I think you messaged her like just a couple days before needing another girl for the draft. So we got her into another one.
Is that why you're laughing, Tanya?
Well, I reached out to her about, 2 weeks ago and was like, hey, I got this tournament coming up. Can you help me out? She was like, yeah, girl, let me know what you need. I'll be there. I said, okay. We actually drafted her before I told her that she was in the draft.
Oh, nice. Yes. I like it.
So her messages back to me had a few choice words I'm not allowed to say. But then she was like, I'm in, but you're not allowed to throw a ball at me for 2 weeks, which I didn't throw a ball at her all tournament long. And I had to have my team take her out because I wasn't allowed to. So
Are you going to stick to that deal, or you're not going to throw at her for the next 2 weeks?
I am. We have open gym tomorrow, and I will honor that. And then next week, a few of us will still be out of town in Canada, so definitely won't throw a ball at her then.
Yeah, I guess be pretty hard to do that, so you're covered. How about Eric? Did you have any other shout-outs? After that?
Let's see. I guess Wrecking Balls. I thought they did really well in men's. I was really impressed with the run that they made. And then all the Winnipeg people that came down too. I got to give them a shout out, like Amanda and Kev and a few others. We go up to their tournaments quite a bit, and they've been coming down to ours for a couple years now too.
Nice.
So it's kind of a cool, I guess, just connection we have with our neighbors to the north in Winnipeg.
Very cool. And how about you, Brett?
Probably just shout out to all my teammates from Hidden Gems and MVP. It's kind of fun getting to play kind of with people none of us ever met before, and we all kind of meshed. And I think by the end we were playing well, but just a big shout out to Twin Cities Dodgeball. This is my third year at Throwdown, and just kind of gets better every year. It's always a great atmosphere. I'm happy to see some West Coasters make the trip out, and Canada always coming down, and good to see some more Chicago players come up, like Super Best Friends. I think that's a good showing for us from Chicago. But Twin Cities is a great area to play dodgeball in. If you're visiting, hit Tanya or Eric up and go join one of their many, many, many open gyms.
Nice. Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that too, because that was on my mind. Is it pretty easy for outsiders that are in the area to just hop in and play some open gym?
Super easy. Monday night is 7-inch open gym. And then usually throughout the week, we have different ball types going on. Tuesdays, we work on our UDC. Wednesdays, there's 7-inch foam. Thursday is elite. Fridays, do we have anything going on Fridays right now? I don't know this.
We have a Friday league that's in fall and the winter, but that's in off season right now.
Yeah. Saturday there's 7-inch foam, and Sunday is UDC practice. So
nice.
Anytime anyone wants to come up, there's probably dodgeball going on.
That's really cool. Yeah, I'm looking on the page here and I see that Marjan is the co-organizer, Secretary of State, owner, and new and used Starfish Emporium. So I don't know why I wanted to shout that out, but that's interesting.
Official titles.
That's amazing. Well, cool. Well, before we get into Tanya shout-outs, Brett, did you have any others, or was that pretty much it?
That's it for me.
Gotcha. Cool. So how about you, Tanya? You said you had quite a few.
Yeah, definitely Stone and Marjan, with Twin Cities Dodgeball. You guys have definitely been around, and I sometimes go crazy during tournaments, but you guys are always there to help me out, so I appreciate that. Jen Ritchie with the schedules this year. The schedules were insane. All the teams kind of registered late, so I didn't realize how big we were getting. So the gym next year will definitely be bigger to accommodate us. Eric's mom and biological mom, getting the schedules, getting the scores, making sure everything I need is good. They bake fresh banana bread every tournament, which is awesome in itself. Huh. We have a snack table. We have waters, Gatorades for everyone to munch on throughout the tournament.
Awesome.
Yeah. And of course, Ashley, who has been there for the last couple months. I kind of took on a lot more than I can chew this year, and she was right there helping me out, making sure that this tournament runs. So definitely deserves a shout out.
Ashley Cook, that one or a different one?
Nope, definitely Ashley Cook.
Gotcha. Very cool. Real quick, and I meant to ask this earlier. Actually, you say you go crazy and you yell. Do you just turn into a completely different person, or?
No. So I like to make sure that everyone gets the most dodgeball in. So I like to schedule it really tight. And the ladies' tournament should have actually lasted longer than the men's, just because we were only on one court and the guys had 3. But the guys seemed to take a little bit longer, so they needed a little bit more voice to get them going.
Gotcha. Very cool. Well, that's all I have, really. Definitely appreciate you guys doing this kind of last minute and spending some time to recap the events, and also being willing to be my guinea pigs for the live stream. That's definitely something I'm going to be playing with for a little bit. Curious to see how it turns out and how we can make these recaps a lot more visually interactive, especially when we're trying to reference plays that happened in the heat of the moment. It was a week ago, so I totally understand Eric not remembering every single minute detail, but we'll definitely work towards that. And so, with that being said, again, thank you guys so much, and we'll end the recap there. Alrighty, so there you have a quick recap of the Twin Cities Throwdown Tournament that took place the weekend of April 21st. I wasn't 100% sure I was going to get a chance to cover it, so huge thank you and shout out to Eric Stone, Tanja Kaiser, and Brett Furlong for jumping in last minute and helping make it happen. I know I've said this before, but any opportunity I get to venture out of the West is a great one. I've been fortunate to talk dodgeball with people I probably never would have under normal circumstances, so I definitely appreciate all of you for accepting my random message requests throughout these last few months and taking time out of your days to rap with me. I cannot say that enough, how much I appreciate it. And before I get too emotional, I'll go ahead and just end the episode there. Have a great rest of your week, and we'll see you this Friday with the LA Classic recap. I'm very much looking forward to it.